welcome to the podcast where we tell you everything you need to know about nature and probably more than you wanted to know. I'm Laura Fawks, Lapole.
And I'm Katy Holloway, and today we're talking about animal sex.
Yeah.
Episode 2. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I'm glad you all returned, and this whole thing didn't fall flat on its face after the first week. So I would say that's a bit of a success.
And as we learned last time, in this episode, we're not going to get graphic, but we are going to be talking about animal sex.
Speak for yourself.
So if there's any sensitive ears in the room, now's the time to turn it off or take those sensitive ears out of the room.
Episode 2, already evacuate the children. No, it shouldn't be too bad.
No.
Although I do say phalluses a lot, so prepare yourself.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about biology here, so I'm going to use some biological terms. But I guess before we get started into our topic, we wanted to each just mention something that's happening in the news, in nature, or happening in the news that's nature related.
The nature news.
Yeah. So in the news, what I wanted to bring up was the fact that the coronavirus vaccine is relying on one of Maryland's strangest fisheries, and that's the horseshoe crab industry that we have here in Maryland. You might be wondering, how do horseshoe crabs help with the coronavirus vaccine? Well, the thing is, horseshoe crabs have extremely unique blood. And for decades, it's been used in medical testing, and it can screen for like bacteria and things like that. So
I 100% thought you said scream for a second, and then I immediately went to horseshoe crab screaming, and I was like, wait a minute, I totally missed that in any of our classes that we've ever had.
No, their blood can like detect toxins and bacteria. So they put the blood on all sorts of medical equipment, including vaccine needles, and then they can see, is there a toxin on it? If not, then they can put it out for production.
That's crazy.
Thanks to horseshoe crabs, we've been having clean medical equipment for decades. And right now they're working on synthesizing like synthetic horseshoe crab blood so that we don't need to keep milking essentially the horseshoe crabs.
Poor horseshoe
because
crabs.
We aren't really, most of the fisheries aren't killing them. They're just draining them some and then letting them go. But it would be more sustainable as an industry if we could synthesize it.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense though, because we have synthetics all the time for medical purposes.
Oh yeah, yeah, and just like ease of, it would be so much easier if it could be synthetic because the mass production. Whereas you've got to wait to milk
a crab.
A crab. And that news comes from the Baltimore Sun.
Very cool. Very, very. I got my vaccine today. My first round 1.
Whoop whoop. And
by the time this episode comes out, I would have already had my second one, hopefully. So
awesome.
And so far, no, side effects or anything like that. So I feel okay. I had a little bit of a headache earlier. I don't know how long it takes the side effects to step in. They did make me stay there for 15 minutes to make sure I didn't have like an allergic reaction or anything.
Yeah.
But then I got a headache a little while ago. But I get headaches a lot, and that is one of the side effects of it. But I get headaches so much, and tension headaches.
Same.
So so it's like who knows if it was from that or this, but it was mild. Took some Tylenol and boom, ready to go. Took a drink and we're feeling even better. It's fine. So yeah, and it wasn't bad at all. So all right. So in my news then, so remember we're recording these in January right now. So this past Wednesday, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge was put up to bid. And this whole thing was kind of overshadowed by, the coup that we almost just had. So this really wasn't in the news, but they put it up. So for those of you who don't know, it's about 19 million acres of Alaskan wilderness, a lot of prairie. So it's super sacred land for the Gwich'in tribe, and the reason why it is for this indigenous group is because it has to go back with like their origin. Not only is it like very sacred land to them, but it's also an area where caribou mate, and that's really what they rely on for substance. So it's not just like, hey, we want to keep these prairies and things like that, which are super super important. But polar bear mating, indigenous people rely on this land And so it went up for bid. They divided up 22 tracts of land, covering about 1,500 square miles, which, yes, all in all, was 5% of the total land, so a little amount. However, that just opens up the floodgates for everything else, and that really makes the land unusable, especially since it's area by the sea. So here comes the big day, and only half of the tracts of the land that they put up were actually bid. Which is good. I mean, it still sucks, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and they're still going to try to stop it from going on here. But out of the projected $1.8 million that they predicted that this was going to bring in, it actually only brought $14 million. So it's being called an epic failure, which is amazing. I mean, it's good. It's still bad, but it's good. Only 3 bidders actually bid on it, one of which was like somehow affiliated with the state of Alaska itself. So nothing is finalized yet. It takes about 2 months, but since this administration is, on its way out, they're probably going to try to, speed that stuff up, but hopefully we can stop it. And again, there's a ton of activists and stuff that are trying to prevent it, and a big outcry from indigenous groups to go ahead and stop that. So hopefully it'll stop here soon.
Yeah.
So that's my news. So anything else that we can think of that's going on?
No, now I'm depressed, and I want you to cheer me up with animal sex.
All right. So this week, as you said, we're talking about animal sex. And I think I have 2, and then you're going to talk about 2 as well, right? All right. And we're going to rotate. So the first animal that I have chosen are bees. It all starts with the birds and the bees, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So might as well start, and I'm gonna
get down to basics.
Yeah, right. Might as well start off on a good note here. So first, I'd like to thank Orkin, where oddly enough, the Google search engine took me to the Orkin website first on my quest for bee sex information.
That's not surprising. Most bug information or insect information comes from pest control.
Right. And I'm just gonna keep plugging products until we can get some sort of sponsor.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yes, For the Love of Nature podcast brought to you by Orkin, where first we tell you how awesome an animal is and then how to terminate them. So, I maybe don't hope that but again, considering they have to get rid of, these creatures they deem as pests, like you said, it makes sense that they'd have some pretty solid understanding of how they reproduce. So, all right, so bees. All right, they're the world's most prolific pollinator. There are over 20,000 different species of bees in the world, 4,000 of which are native to the U.S.
Yes.
According to USGS, bees can range from tiny 2 millimeters in solitary Perdia minima, known as the world's smallest bee, to the kumquat-sized species of carpenter bees.
Yeah. Carpenter bees are so cute and
fuzzy. They are. I grew up in a log house.
True.
And my dad, who has passed, but him and my brother used to, given a log house, used to stand out there with a wiffle ball bat and just ping. Yeah, ping those little, but they're so cute because they are fat, chubby little bees. So I wouldn't condone that behavior now. Don't go batting carpenter bees, but so bees are found everywhere but Antarctica. Pretty much everyone has seen, a bee of some sort. While most of what we know about bees is surrounded around pollination and honey creation, there's a lot more to their unique hive lifestyle than that. So hives, they vary in size, but each colony can vary not only in the number of individuals, but vary in the hive physical size. Hives are made up of a single queen and up to 80,000 sterile female worker bees.
And are we talking, this is honeybees?
This is just general bees, and then I'll get back into honey.
Okay, I was just curious because I know a lot of native bees are like the solitary ones, but you're talking about social bees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's like up to 80,000 females and hundreds of male drones whose sole purpose is to knock up the queen. Bees, like any variety of animal, have different mating techniques depending upon species. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into honeybee specifics of mating, because it's a very, very deadly, I guess one could argue, one of the most deadly mating rituals found. All right, so there are 2 ways that a queen bee is made, which we'll save those specifics for another episode. But when a new queen emerges from her cell, it generally takes a few days for her to mature, her wings need to expand and dry out, and her glands need to mature. When she's ready, she'll take her first mating flight. So when it's time to mate, the queen will fly to an open area outside the hive and wait for the male drones. Pretty much these drones, the male, again, like I said, their only job is to mate. So considering they luck out.
Yeah.
Right? That's
No work, all sex.
All sex. That's all they do. So the drones arrive, The drones upon arrival swarm around the female. How they find the female, no one is exactly sure on the specifics, but scientists speculate it has to do with pheromones. Now this is where it differs among bee species. Some swarm the female and like battle royale it out
with each other or with her.
Anything. They just like.
Dang.
There are cases of them so aggressively fighting either in between each other that they'll kill the female.
Dang.
She's just like an innocent bystander. So battle royale it out. I mean, sometimes, and then other times that, they're a little bit more civil about it, which is typically what honeybees do, where they'll actually take turns, which is, I say more civil about it, but it just sounds horrible no matter what you say.
To each their own.
Yeah, right. So the civil bees, they'll take turns mating with her. Shortly after this, just like when a bee stings something, they fall to the ground and they wait to die. All right, this happens because when the male inserts his endophallus, so endo meaning inner, phallus meaning, phallus, into the queen, it basically rips off. Yeah, so I don't know how politically correct we're going to get here, but his phallus rips off. Hopefully everybody can imagine what that body part is, because I'm sure my grandma's listening to this right now. So shout out to Ruth. But I don't want to say anything more than phallus in this podcast, at least not in episode 2,
Okay.
But I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'll save dick for later. Sorry, Grandma.
I definitely am going to say biological terms in mine. So
phallus.
I think as long as we're not gross, tasteful. We're talking tasteful animal sex here.
All right, so thank goodness the females are the ones getting most of the pollinating done. We would be screwed because, the males, they're useless after they sting or have sex. So not only, humans, we're killing them off left and right with habitat destruction and pesticides, but they have 2 then mechanisms of death, which is, defensive stinging and mating. So it honestly is crazy that this species has survived. Like, for how much we depend on it, it's crazy that it can survive this long between humans and that its own, evolutionary imperfections where it dies on 2 of the main things it needs to do is mate and protect itself. So it is pretty nuts. No pun intended. Again, sorry, Grandma. All right, so back to mating. All right, so picture this. All right, newly appointed queen is out mating one after the other. Phallus is piling on inside of her, and then, like I said, after they mate, they fall to the ground and they die. So it's just a female going, and then just a wake trail of dead bees in her path. And I really don't know how much more of a badass queen you can get, because can you imagine that? You're watching, oh, here comes a queen, and then you just see a trail of dead
bodies?
Men, of dead bodies behind it.
They've served their purpose.
That's definitely a t-shirt. Oh, wait, Joshua, make a graphic about badass queens killing and mating. So just a trail of dead bees. And this isn't only a one-time event. This goes on for several days. And having all the various genetics in her, she flies back to the hive where she can live up to 5 years producing more offspring. I had no idea that bees live that long. I don't know how long I thought bees lived, but I definitely didn't think it was 5 years.
I've learned so much about bees recently because we have a hive where I work, and
sweet.
I am blown away by bees.
Hopefully everything I said was correct. Hopefully
I don't know anything about their mating, so that was a new one.
Okay, all right.
I just know about their social stuff.
Well, trail of death behind the female.
Band name.
Right? Trail of death. That's what it needs to be, Joshua. Trail of death and a badass looking like biker female bee. And that needs to go on a t-shirt or a mug. That'd make a sweet mug. All right. So the queen spends the remainder of her 5 years laying eggs. That's the only flight she takes. She never leaves the hive again. And that's it. After her badass flight of death with phalluses, the end.
Dang, that's a good one.
Right?
I'm imagining every man listening to this now feels extremely uncomfortable. Probably has their legs crossed.
Yeah, right. And wincing in pain of what did I just listen to?
Oh man, well, it's only gonna get worse because I have been preparing for this particular subject my whole life. Like in high school at our lunch table, I would talk about this subject. So like this has been refined. And the two species I'm going to talk about, probably no one's ever heard of the first one, maybe the second one. So hopefully it's going to be new for everybody, including you. Okay, here we go.
You're excited.
Okay. So the first animal I want to talk about today is called the antechinus. At least I think that's how you say it. Antechinus is its scientific name. It's a group.
We're going to go with it.
Yep, you're right. We're going to go with it. I don't remember how I stumbled upon the antechinus, but
You're Laura. I'm not even going to question what rabbit hole you went into to find it.
But once I learned about its sexual habits, I have never forgotten it. Okay? So, what is it? The antechinus is a genus, so it's not just one species. It's like a group of small mouse-like marsupials that live in Australia. Because, of course, all things intense come from Australia, so you shouldn't be surprised. So imagine something that looks kind of like a mouse or a shrew, but it's a marsupial. It's got soft, bristly, gray-brown fur, and fun fact, females actually have different amounts of nipples depending on where they live.
What?
It's true.
Pause. What?
Yep. If they
Can
live,
you imagine being like, I'm from the north. I have 18 nipples.
Yeah, right. But it's true.
Sorry, Grandma.
In wet habitats, they have 6, and in dry habitats, they have 10. And that
I wonder why, though.
I don't know. I'm assuming it has to do. Well, it's going to come up later, and maybe that will explain it.
Okay.
But why did I want to focus on the antechinus? Because they have insane sex, okay? They have sex until they literally fall apart. You heard me. Article headlines for this critter are amazing. Just Google it. Like, where I find this information, priceless headlines. But basically what it all comes down to is these little guys, they're called semiparis, which means they only mate once in their life.
Okay.
Whereas most things mate every couple, a lot. There are 4 other small marsupial insectivores, like these guys, that exhibit this same behavior. So it's a very uncommon thing for an animal to mate once in its life. At least mammals. A lot of insects do that, but not mammals. Literally, no other mammals are like this. Not even some other small marsupial insectivores. So they are said to show extreme sexual behavior, which I love that's
that's
what they've been tagged with. Like a clinical diagnosis, sir. I'm afraid you have extreme sexual behavior.
Yeah, right. Do you have to put that on medical forms in your future?
Well, it's so true because males have a couple of weeks to bang like crazy, pass on their genes, and then die. So it all comes down to a couple of crazy weeks. Right before mating starts, the male will stop making sperm.
Huh.
And since they no longer need them, their testes disintegrate.
Horrible way to go.
So all the sperm that they have left is inside, and the clock is ticking before it's gone forever.
Oh, goodness.
So they go insane, and they find a female, and sometimes mating lasts for up to 14 hours.
I I mean, if that's what you got to do before you die,
Yeah.
their
talk about
one dying
stamina.
last wish.
They're highly promiscuous, which I feel like is like sex shaming the Antechinus. But it is a biological term. The promiscuous meaning they have sex with multiple partners. With all sex, there's actually no time for fighting, so it's really peaceful. So the males don't fight for females; they just run around and have sex. It's like
a big Antechinus orgy.
Yep,
I mean,
utopia.
Yeah.
So it's really great, except for the fact that the males are rotting.
So gross.
Since the males are spending all their time doing it, they aren't taking care of themselves, and they become exhausted, and their immune system is just shot.
Crazy.
Yeah, which leads to, once your immune system goes, and they have when you're stressed, you produce like hormones and things.
Yeah.
That all leads to infections, ulcers, hair loss, internal bleeding, and gangrene.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It only gets worse as the weeks go on, and the males make last desperate attempts to find females, and the males kind of resemble zombies, and the females by then are running away, trying to avoid them. Like,
Yeah,
as any sane woman would do. All this culminates in every male in the area being dead at the end of breeding season.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And they never even see their young born. So it's this crazy mating time. They all die, and then the females give birth. They actually have more babies than any other Australian marsupial. They can have 8 to 14 babies. So if you remember my earlier comment about the different
nipples.
number of nipples, this is more than the nipples they have. So some of the babies don't make it.
Oh, jeez.
Which also seems incredibly inefficient.
Yeah, it does, right?
And unlike almost all other marsupials, they don't have a pouch. So the babies are born. So marsupials they give birth right away, and then the babies kind of develop usually in a pouch. But in this case, they just hang onto her belly for dear life, and attach to those nipples.
I can't let go. I'm just holding on. Dang.
Poor babies,
Right?
And because the female is dragging around like 8 to 14 kids, she basically is sucked dry and usually doesn't live a second year.
Jeez. Again, this is another creature of how the heck are they still here?
I don't know, because the fact that every male dies off, and so the next generation, I mean, it just depends on how many boys are born.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You better really hope, like that the genetics, you get your X's and Y's ratio right, or else, dang.
That was the last time, yeah. So this all leads to the question, why? Why would they do this? Because it seems insane. And it really, scientists don't know for sure, but they're pretty sure it all comes down to what's called sperm competition. So rather than battling for access to females, the battle happens on the inside. So
still seems like a hard way to go for for sperm battle.
And they think it's that because that's shown by like really long mating periods, like 14 hours. So and they think that it's this extreme competition comes because of food seasonality. That's the leading theory right now. So the young are born when insect populations are the highest. Because of this, females all go into heat at the same time so that they have their babies at the right time, which means insane competition for those females.
Interesting.
So it's not that the guys are, sacrificing their lives to help the babies. It's that that's the only time they're going to be able to do it. More may be going on here, but scientists aren't sure.
Interesting.
And that is the insane, extreme sex life of the Antechinus.
of zombies, essentially. Dang, that's nuts. I don't remember, you guys all know from the first episode my love of Australian animals and their toe knives. But we'll just have to keep focusing on random Australian crazy animals.
Oh, I'm sure it'll keep coming back. Yeah.
Australia is just a country in its own, and the diversity that they have, and just the adaptability of some of their animals is just nuts. And I mean, really unique. I mean, America
they've been an island. They've been an island for so long.
Yeah, right? And it's like, yeah, things in America are, you can find unique species and things like that. But I feel like Australia, I mean, just experiencing it firsthand, Australia just has insane species. All right, so my second animal in the crazy world of animal sex is a pufferfish.
Yes!
So I'll let you make your own jokes here because they're also commonly referred to as blowfish. Sorry, Grandma.
Hey!
But I'm just going to focus on one specific one specific species of pufferfish, the white spotted pufferfish. And this one, what I'm going to be talking about is more about the ritual of finding a mate rather than the actual sex part. So I guess this is like interesting animal foreplay.
Yeah.
So, all right, so the white-spotted pufferfish is, now this particular one, because there's two different ones that are called the white-spotted pufferfish. I'm not even going to attempt the scientific name, but it's Torquigner albomaculus.
You just said you're not going to attempt it, and then you butchered the Latin.
And then I butcher it. So that this particular one is found around the oceans of Ryukyu Islands, Ryukyu, around Japan. And they can reach up to just about shy of 20 inches or 50 centimeters. They are gray or yellowish and covered in white spots, hence the name of white-spotted pufferfish. They are generally found between the depths of 30 to 88 feet, and they're found on sandy bottoms. Yeah, that's pretty deep. Pretty deep for what I'm about to tell you that people actually found this. So for quite some time, these pufferfish were lumped in with another species until their distinct mating ritual allowed them to stand out from the rest. So the white-spotted pufferfish was found to be the culprit of a 20-year-old mystery of sand art. So male pufferfish are quite dull in color, and they're so unimpressive in camouflage that they're pretty much invisible. Right? So they have to go to extreme lengths to attract a female. So to help them be seen, they have a unique trick up their non-scaly fins is their artists. So using their trusty fins, both the pectoral fins, which are the ones on the sides, and the pelvic fin, which is the ones on the bottom, he strategically plows through the sand, breaking it up into finer and finer particles, creating ridges. Now, these ridges, he starts to line them up parallel to each other, and he starts to form a perfect circle in the sand, like the spokes of a bicycle wheel.
How perfect? Like, have they ever measured it?
How big? It's pretty big. So if he's 20 inches, I would say it's at least a few feet. I mean, it's significantly bigger. I mean, it could even be bigger than that. I didn't see that, but it's significantly larger than the fish.
And have they ever like measured the angle of the circle? Like, is it like really close to perfect?
Oh yeah. Like
wow.
it is like if you look up the picture, white spotted pufferfish, Japan. If you just even put in white spotted pufferfish, you'll find it because it's so unique. And they had when I say 20-year-old mystery, like people would dive, 30, 88 feet deep. People would be diving and see, like, can you imagine how freaked out you'd be, like, seeing these perfectly, like,
I found Atlantis!
Yeah, right? Clearly somebody has to be down here with a stick drawing in the sand. Yeah. But even at that point, like, it's so well done, that it really is like a perfect circle. Just look it up. It's super interesting. And we'll post stuff on our social media too, so that you guys can see. So it's very much so like a spoke of a bicycle wheel, for comparison. So while doing all of this line work, he also is collecting shells that he'll place on the ridges to decorate his work.
That's adorable.
Right? So, and this process isn't just a few hours. He does this pretty much 24/7 for an entire week.
Dang.
So that's, yeah, right? That's so much devotion to a piece of sand art. But I guess, you know, if you're completely invisible and you're basically, and you're trying.
That's how you get them.
Right? That's how.
I mean, I would be impressed. If a man stayed awake for 24/7 for an entire week to create art, I'd be impressed.
For you to be like, here you go, Laura. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk to your husband and let him know. Which, speaking of, my husband pointed out after he listened to the first episode, he pointed out that we did not mention once that we were married. And we talked about so many other things. And he's like, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was my comment about Alan Grant. About the character being hot.
Yeah,
he was like,
yeah.
And so he said, he called that out and he was like, and you didn't even mention you were married. I was like, what do you want me to do? Mention that the first episode? Like,
well,
hey.
it fits in great here about animal sex. We'll just mention the husbands.
Yeah, right. In circles and artistic circles, when he's probably one of the most unartistic people I know. He's an engineer. So totally different.
My guy too.
Totally different side of the brain. Art just does not compare. But if he stayed up 24/7, I don't know, creating some engineering magic, I guess that would be the same as a lot of devotion. So patterns vary between individual fish. But the easiest way, besides like a bicycle spoke that I could describe, it was almost like, what are they called? The mandalas or
mandala, yeah.
Yeah, mandalas. It's almost like that. They're circular with ridges, and some of them almost appear almost flower-like. Like, even though it's a circle, you'll see it's very interesting. And he'll actually sit in the middle after he's created it. Almost like a hey girl, like target, like all the lines are pointing to him. But what scientists, once they figured out that it was, you know, this individual species of pufferfish that they divided, you know, separated from another species, the designs they actually found serve a purpose other than a beacon for females. So those distinct ridges are found to be placed perfectly to cut down on the movement of ocean currents, specific to where the art is located. So depending on where, you know, in the ocean it is, it's almost like they study the ocean currents, and then they pick this little spot so that the eggs, whenever the female will lay her eggs in the middle, that it cuts down on the current so that they won't be like blown away in the current.
Whoa. So it's like art and engineering.
Yes.
Like, he is an engineer.
I'll tell my husband.
You're a little pufferfish.
He'll be so happy. But I thought that was insanely interesting because it's not only like an attraction of like display. Because what is that? The Bowerbird? Again, we're gonna keep going back to Australia, but the ones that attract, like, they'll get all the blue things to you know, build their nest to attract the female. This, you know, isn't just an attractant, but it's also like specifically done to cut down on the current so that the eggs don't blow away. So that's really cool. And recently, these little crop circles basically are finding their way off the coast of Australia. And whether it's a similar species or the same one making their way all the way down south, because from Japan down there is super far. Biologists don't know yet, but they're still going to try to figure it out. But again, I mean, it took them 20 years just to figure out the white-spotted pufferfish were making, you know, what particular fish was making this. They had, or what was, because they had no idea. So whether they're going to figure out the ones off the coast of Australia, what's doing them, if it's the same species that's, you know, got caught up in a wave, you know, a current how many years ago or something. But soon to be find out. I don't think, what is it from Finding Nemo, the EAC? Yeah, the EAC, man. So I don't think it goes all the way that, I know the currents go a long way, but I don't know if it goes up to Japan. But so anyway, so yeah, it'll soon to be find out. So that is the foreplay tale of the white-spotted pufferfish.
That's awesome. My brain like is going to my next question, which is, you know, are their designs all exactly the same?
They're similar.
And if so, that behavior must be that's genetic, not learned.
It's a little bit like you'll see. It's definitely so it's almost like a child that's born, they're going to have some genetics, but then it's also atmosphere. And so the ridges though appear to be different because of the way that the currents are. So
right.
So I think they didn't really say anything other than they figured out that the way that the ridges are created are specific to cutting down the currents. So I think that's the only difference in how their appearance is based upon those currents in that specific area.
Yeah.
And how they can deter those currents from taking all their eggs away.
Yeah. I mean, it just implies or leads to a lot of different things. Like,
it does.
Are the young pufferfish watching older pufferfish do this? Are they born knowing how to do this?
Yeah.
And the judgment, like that kind of intelligence, I bet most people don't think about fish as being like, smart. These ocean currents, I will have to adjust the height of my ridges.
You're right.
Like,
They need to go 90 degrees south of here. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that shows some serious thought.
It does. But I mean, and they're still studying. I can't remember, but I think it was just like they separated this species in like 2015, 16.
Wow.
So, I mean, this was fairly recent that they figured out that these guys are a little bit different than the other pufferfish in the area. Because, I mean, if you guys have seen pictures of pufferfish, like they're very similar. A lot of them are very similar in appearances, but they separated them out because of this one unique behavior, which is truly unique. So I'm sure they're still learning a whole lot. And then, just as they don't even have this whole species figured out, and then you have the ones from Australia thrown in there, and then they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on down there? And so yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting fish to follow throughout the years, just to try to see what they're going to what scientists and marine biologists are going to come up with of what they're doing. So
yeah. Well, my animal actually is a little bit like yours in the fact that mine isn't so much the act as the getting there. The foreplay.
The animal foreplay.
Yeah. It's just
it's Valentine's Day coming up, so.
Yeah, right. We're just giving you guys some tips.
Yeah.
So we're going from the pufferfish who creates beautiful art to mites, which also create art, but I don't think you would consider it beautiful. So several species of mite, M-I-T-E, exhibit some instance of some crazy sexual behaviors. My first knowledge of this was years and years ago, like probably maybe almost 10 years ago now. Thanks to the oatmeal. Do you know that comic? That online comic, The Oatmeal?
No. Oh, wait. Yes, I do.
Okay,
yes, I do. Okay.
Mantis shrimp, yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks to the oatmeal, love you, which is it's an insanely hilarious online comic. He or they went over the red velvet mite, which is what I want to cover, and a quick shout out to another species. So, what is the red velvet mite? You guessed it, it's a mite. But
who would have thought?
Mites are a type of arachnid, so they've got 4 pairs of legs. But unlike spiders, they don't have any body segments. They're just all abdomen. They're just little chubby, 4-legged, no antenna. And red velvet mites in particular are only 1 centimeter long and covered in fluffy red hair. They're found in usually leaf litter, and something I didn't know before doing this segment was that they're important to soil decomposition because they eat fungi and bacteria. Mm-hmm. So they're making sure the whole process happens. Anyway, what's crazy about them? Well, the male creates a love garden, which is a beautiful way to say that he spreads his sperm all over twigs, stalks, and leaves and sticks them together.
I take that back. I said aw, and then that's a preemptive aw.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have spoke so soon.
I mean, it sounds really cute until you remember that everything's covered in sperm.
Right?
There are many more awful titles for this, but I'm not going to go there. But if you want to know them, Google it. There are some quite creative titles. Anyway, so he creates this love garden And then he creates a really complex silken trail that leads to that garden. So he'll like create this little path to his love garden, and he'll wait at the end of that little silken thread.
Okay, and this does not sound like a love garden. This sounds like a creeper who is luring someone into his nest. Yeah, this is. See, I love watching like murder shows, and all kinds of red flags are going up right now. Like, this is a trap. Don't follow
the art's not quite there, so I guess it's not quite as romantic. But so he waits at the end, and when he sees a female, he does a dance, which is adorable to think about, a tiny little mite doing a dance with all 8 legs. If she likes what she sees, she follows him back down his silken trail, and then goes into his love garden.
She's tricked. She's tricked. This is a trap. It has to be a trap.
It's a trap. Once she's into his garden, she'll sit on one of his spermatophores, which is one of my favorite words. It's a great word. It's basically a little sperm bubble. A
little sperm packet.
Yeah, she'll sit on that, and boom, she's pregnant. However, not all is paradise in the love garden, because if another male finds that secret sperm garden before a female does, he will destroy it and make a love garden of his own. So he will demolish it and then spread his own sperm everywhere and create a garden. And I guess all's fair in love and war. But,
right? But
so I just imagine the poor, sweet, like, velvet mite who's dancing and leading this lady back. Meanwhile, some villain mite is going to come through and just wreck his stuff.
Where are these? Did you say it where they're from? Where you can find them?
No, I did not. You can actually find them here in the United States, but I think they're also in a couple other countries.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure I've seen one before.
Okay, me too, because I swear, like, digging, hunting for salamanders and stuff like that in the soil, I'm positive that I've seen red mites. Whether it's, this particular species, I didn't get that close enough to look for their spermatophores and love gardens. But excuse me, where's your love garden? Yeah, no, I didn't ask him, but I've definitely seen them before.
Yeah. And then so that's the red velvet mite, and then just a super quick shout out to the Adactylidium mite. Actylidium female mites feed on a specific insect egg, and then they grow 8 females and 1 male inside of them. Okay.
What?
So they eat this special meal. They get their babies to grow inside of him. Then the male inside mates with the other females inside.
What?
Yes, it happens. And so he mates with all of his sisters. But let's just pause, okay?
A mite is incredibly small.
Right?
So can you imagine how small the mites in the mite are?
It's like miteception.
Yeah.
But with incest.
Yeah, right. Miteception. Josh, t-shirt.
So the male mates with all the females, and then the pregnant girls eat their way out of their mother and go and do the same thing 4 days later themselves.
Dang.
That's it. That's the life cycle, and the male dies within a few hours. After he does his business. So it's just every 4 days. Crazy stuff is happening. Like, and we don't even know.
That's nuts.
And that's mites for you. They have some crazy sexual tendencies.
All those times I've just been like, like you find them and you just kind of push them away and stuff, because they are incredibly small. You just never knew. I probably, flicked them off of their love gardens at some point. The red velvet ones, and didn't even know. They put in all that work, and here I am, like, digging, looking for salamanders and stuff. And they're like, no, my love garden.
Not again!
Yeah, right. And they only have, how long did you find how long the red velvet ones live for?
No, I didn't.
I gotta assume it can't be that long.
It can't be that long.
It's a
somebody can tell us. Josh.
There's no way. Yeah, Josh is, not only is Josh doing graphic design, again, he'll be on here at some point, because we promised him if he was going to do some artwork for us that he had to at least be on one episode where he can talk about insects, because Josh is the knower of all things insect.
Yeah.
He really is our go-to for insect knowledge. So we'll have to well, he'll be listening to this, so I'll be like, Josh, how long do red velvet mites live for? So yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, I think that wraps it up, right?
Yeah,
Good?
I mean, I could go on and on about animal sex.
Weird animal sex. Because what started this conversation with us whenever we were trying to think of topic ideas was actually an octopus. And that's what started it, of how the male, they reach up into themselves and grab out. I don't know.
It's like a packet.
Yeah, like a packet too. And then reach over to the female and plop it up into the female.
And then she can use it whenever she wants.
Yeah, just at any time she wants. So that's where we started, because I don't even remember what class. I'd assume invert, that we first talked about that. And I remember just laughing at the visual that has of being like, what?
Well, because it's just so very like casual or like clinical. Like it's like if what we picture like aliens would be like here's my sperm packet. Well, thank you, kind sir. I'll use this whenever I get a chance. Like it's just,
and then they just part their ways. Yeah. So we definitely have interesting topics coming up. Laura, do you want to pitch the one that's going to be for next week?
Sure. Next week, join us to listen about some crazy animal research. So what are some things that we've discovered from researching animals?
And eventually,
I'm excited to know.
Me too. Thankfully, I've written mine. I'm very excited to hear yours. And eventually, we're going to stop giving plugs for next week. So it'll be a surprise. But for now, we want to keep you guys coming and listening back. So we'll definitely be uploading some pictures onto our Instagram and Twitter accounts. And you can find us at FTLON podcast, Footlon podcast. Did not think that one through.
It's memorable. It's memorable.
Yeah, Footlon. So definitely check out on Instagram and Twitter, and tune in next week to hear about some crazy animal research. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week.